Well, a fight back is on. Let's speak to Jon Moses. He's national campaigner with the action group Right to Roam. Good to have you with us. Can we start with the offence itself, trespass, which is often thrown at people who wander across land that is public land but owned by people, by farmers or the like. What is the offence and how does the law see it?
Well, in England, trespass is a civil offence. It's not a criminal offence, so long as you don't cause any damage or disrupt lawful activity. So pretty much you can access land, and if you're challenged and you go about your way kind of politely, not really much harm can come to you. In theory, the landowner could take you to civil court, but that would be a massively expensive waste of their time.
I said there was a fight back on. What does that look like? How do you reclaim land that is deemed a protected right of way?
We organise kind of peaceful, joyful trespasses of often large estates that are owned by very wealthy people. We almost never encounter anyone, by the way, on those estates because these are huge swathes of land that are basically being depopulated. That's related to our history in the 18th century, in the 19th century in England. Large parts of the countryside were depopulated and these large estates kind of grew in their place. So we have kind of peaceful events on those land. We often, they're led by botanists and ornithologists and astronomers, and we used it as an opportunity to reconnect with the land that for the most part we're kept out of.
Right, deliberate trespass. How much territory do you think you've reclaimed as public land?
Well, in theory, we're sort of creating the principles of acting as though you're already free. So we're giving people the confidence to step into the countryside that maybe they've been excluded from. We ask them to follow the Scottish Outdoor Access Code, which is the kind of contract which governs the right to roam in Scotland, where you do have a default right of access to most land and water, and encourage people to go peacefully about their way and enjoy nature.
But don't we have a default protection here? I understood that there was a bill passed last year, that the much promised anti-trespassing bill. Does that not give people powers? And have we seen more people taking up the right to roam since it went through Parliament?
So that trespass law was targeted really at the Gypsy Roma traveller community. It was really to penalise their way of life. So it affected intent to reside with 6 or more vehicles. So it hasn't yet disrupted our activities as walkers, although there are many reasons to object to the legislation otherwise.
Oh, so there are no protections in there for people who want to walk across public land?
It remains a civil offence, not a criminal offence, yes.
OK, all right. Now, I must confess, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because there was a huge feature today in the New York Times by Brooke Jarvis. It's very good, actually. And I was intrigued because since we are a global channel, how do we compare to the United States or to other European countries?
We compare poorly to, say, Scandinavia. So Norway, Sweden, Finland all have had the right to roam pretty much as long as their history. I mean, it's just taken as granted there in those countries. Scotland joined that recently as well. About 20 years ago, the Land Reform Act was passed. In England, we have about 8% of access to right to roam over, and we have about access to kind of an undisputed access to 3% of our rivers. So many of our rivers, someone will still feel entitled to shout at you if you swim in them, which seems a bit absurd. We're probably doing better than some states in the US. I confess I don't know the ins and outs of US access policy. Obviously, we have a lot less guns as well, so trespassing slightly less.
It's a bit safer. Bit safer. What do people get to see if they roam, though? What would they get to see if they... what more do they get to see than if they just stuck to the well-trodden routes?
Well, to give you an example, I live in the Welsh Borders, which is a beautiful rural place. I can see lots of green from my windows, but actually I can access very little of what I can see. So I get about 5 minutes of access to my local river before getting punted off and having to walk down an asphalt track. I have just about some access to a local woodland, although that woodland was mostly destroyed in the 1960s. So actually most of the kind of green and pleasant land that I can see in front of me may as well be wallpaper. I can't actually get to it, and someone would feel entitled to shout at me if I did access it.
Really? They still shout at you? Don't they just say, oh, no, it's Jon from the Right to Roam, just leave him alone?
Starting to get some of those responses, but my notoriety has not reached those levels yet.
Jon, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. It's a thing that people feel very passionate about. We'll have to cut it short there, though. We're going to roam across the headlines. So thank you very much indeed for that.